Hi everyone. Basically, what we're going to do tonight is just take you through a very basic bit about safeguarding. And then what we are trying to do at the moment is to introduce a club checklist, something to help you so that you as a club know what our expectation is for you to have in place. So this is in the process of being developed at the moment. But so you are the first ones to see it here tonight, and you'll be able to have a copy of it. And I would really appreciate some feedback on it. And if you think I've missed anything or whatever, to feedback after tonight. So we'll whiz through that, go through the checklist, and then really basically just to have a question and answer session for as long as you think you've got the questions and I can answer them. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Judy Rogers. I am the Table Tennis England Safeguarding and Ethics Manager and currently the safeguarding team. So there's just one of me at the moment. So my role is to make sure that all of our policies, all of our guidance that supports our staff, yourselves as club officers, club members and players and coaches, in fact, anyone involved in table tennis. We make sure that everything is kept up to date and everything is relevant with the view of obviously making our sport and everyone taking part in our sport safe. I also deal with lots of queries every day on the phone, emails from clubs, leagues, counties, individuals. On the other side, I manage any actual cases that we get, working with the statutory agencies if they're involved, and lead any investigations that relate to table tennis. Before everyone starts panicking, we probably have, as a sport, about, and I don't want to jinx this because it's been relatively quiet this year, we get probably about 4 or 5 actual cases a year, which for a sport our size is pretty good, actually. And then I'll investigate those cases, and that includes some of the poor practice and disciplinary as well. So that's me. So this is the boring bit. This is all the legislation that backs all the work that I do. Now, I have to know that, and you'll be really pleased to know you don't. But just so that you know, when I'm saying something or asking people to do things or putting stuff in place, it is all relevant to all of this legislation. Thanks, Claire. So let's be clear about what is safeguarding and what is child protection. So if we look at the safeguarding as the umbrella, so the umbrella is all the policies, the procedures, the guidance that we put in place for the protection of our clubs, for the protection of our members, and it's that that keeps everybody safe, and it's that that creates the barriers that will deter those people that want to get into our sport for not the reasons of playing, but to do harm to our members. And the more barriers we can put in place, then the harder it becomes for someone to get into the sport who wants to create mischief or trouble, and then they'll look elsewhere. Paedophiles want a simple way in. So the more barriers, the more hurdles we put in place will stop them. The child protection is the case management. It is that one little panel of the safeguarding umbrella that is dealing with the actual live cases. So let's have a look at coaches, because hopefully most of you have got coaches or are coaches in your clubs. So all active coaches that you are using within your clubs, that are deployed in the leagues or counties or even self-employed, must I think rather than should, must have a coach license. Now that is regardless of whether they are paid or whether they are volunteers. Because if they have a coach license, it means, one, they're qualified and we've assessed their qualification. Two, we know they have a current DBS check that's been risk assessed by us, so it has to be taken out through Table Tennis England. Three, they have attended one of our approved safeguarding workshops, and we're about to make that easier for people to access. And three, they have insurance, because actually the insurance needs to be on the coach, not just the club. So that's really, really important. And no one should be using or deploying coaches who do not have an up-to-date coach license. And the coaches, we ask them to abide by, well, we ask everyone to abide by our codes of conduct. And while they're doing that, and if they've got everything in place, it's for as much for their protection as it is for the protection of the children and the adults at risk. Because if they've got this in place, they're lessening the chance that they're leaving themselves open to litigation. And that's something we don't want. So we're here for the protection of everybody. So we provide that support. So if you've ever got any questions, not sure about something, I'm very happy to go through, advise and support everybody. Because as I've said before, the harder we can make it for people to get into our sport who we don't want in the sport, the better it is. We try to make it as simple as possible. Just as an example, this year alone, I was reviewing policies and found we had 5 different codes of conduct. One for officials, one for volunteers, one for players, one for coaches, guidance for parents. And so what we did, or I did, was looked at all of them and amalgamated them all into one code of conduct, which makes it much, much simpler for everyone. All of the policies, all of our guidelines, everything relating to safeguarding is available on our website on the safeguarding page. If you don't know where that is, if you go to the home page and click on About Us, there is the safeguarding page there. So everything you need to know is there for you. And on there as well is appropriate training advice for all of our volunteers, dependent upon what role you have. Now, this is something I will also be coming back to later. We need you. I can't be everywhere. So I need eyes and ears right across the whole of Table Tennis England. And that's why we need clubs and leagues to appoint your own welfare officers. We'll talk about their role a bit later. Thank you. If you're putting on events in your club, make sure there is a safeguarding contact, preferably your welfare officer at your event, and that is advertised, so that should there be an issue, then people know who to speak to on the day. And there will be then a reporting mechanism, which is straight to me as the safeguarding manager. The same as every welfare officer, whoever is that safeguarding contact, we do not expect you as individuals, as members, as clubs, as coaches to manage any of the issues. What we do expect you to do is to report them on straight away or as quickly as possible after the event or after it's happened or after someone's revealed something to you. So you're not expected to manage any issues, and nor is the welfare officer. But whoever is the contact at events should be aware of our safeguarding guidelines and to have obviously my contact details to hand. Hopefully they won't be necessary. Just to say, we will be sending out these slides to you. So the key things to remember as club officers is that whatever, the welfare of the child is paramount. And actually, in the court of law, the welfare of the child takes priority above that of an adult. We all have a responsibility to report anything that makes us feel uncomfortable or concerned. So if you see something and you think, yeah, that's fine, absolutely fine. But if you see something you think, oh, I'm not sure about that, I'm not comfortable with that, then make a note and report it. I'd far rather people reported things that actually didn't need to go anywhere than missed the one thing that did. Thank you. Oh, can we go back to that one before we go on to the checklist? So on that bit, has anybody got any questions?
No, not for me.
If you have got questions, can you raise your hand, and hopefully either myself or Claire can see it. I'm not sure I can at the moment with my screen share on. No, I don't think I can see any raised hands. Can you, Claire? Oh, Bernard.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
I've been trying to connect for ages. Not your fault. I've had techie problems this end.
Okay, I'm getting some feedback. Can I ask everybody else if they can mute themselves, please? Right, try again, Bernard.
Is that any better?
That's better-ish. What's the question?
I only caught the end of what you were saying, and I'm interested in, I'm the chairman of our club, and I'm the designated welfare officer, but I don't have the qualifications, for want of a better term, to be the welfare officer.
Okay.
How do I go about that?
Okay. Right. We are in the process of looking at our training. My recommendation at the moment, but this will shortly change, is that as the welfare officer, you access the UK Coaching, Safeguarding and Protecting Children workshop. You can do the e-learning one, the refresher, and that gives you the information there. There is another course called Time to Listen. At the moment, you can access that through your active partnerships. It's not our course, it's run by the Child Protection in Sport unit. Now, what we are trying to do at the moment is to be able to deliver that course ourselves. So we're in negotiation with the Child Protection in Sport unit so that we can actually deliver that course ourselves in-house. In terms of the Safeguarding and Protecting Children, I'm working currently with a company who produce e-learning courses and online workshops. And I'm working with a gentleman called Paul Stewart, who you may or may not have heard of, but he was the major whistleblower for the Football Association. He was a former Spurs player, and he actually revealed a few years ago that, you know, the abuse that he suffered from his coach, and he now works in safeguarding. And so I've been working with him over the last month or so. We're about to launch a podcast, and we're working on an e-learning course that will be available and will be for table tennis. So that is coming, but at this moment, the UK coaching course is the best one around.
Okay, hopefully that's brilliant. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just ask Claire a question, please? Claire,
yeah,
can you hear me? I say I've been having techie problems, so I don't know whether you can hear.
Yeah, I just couldn't find my mute button. Go for it.
I can see some people, but my video doesn't appear to be working. But that's a benefit for you because I'm an ugly son. So anyway, There's just a message come up on screen that you're going to send links. Is that correct?
Yes, so I just popped in the chat that those training sessions that Julie's mentioned, so the UK coaching and the Time to Listen CPSU course, I'll include a link to both of those in the follow-up email, along with the slides to this session as well.
Fantastic, thank you.
All right.
That's me done. I'll try and lower my hand.
Thanks, Bernard.
Yeah, should be done.
Simon, I think you've got Simon Bate. You've got your.
So Simon's popped a message in the chat, Julie, to say that his mic isn't connected, but has asked a question to say that. The question is, a welfare officer can't necessarily be at all club nights. So do you have to have someone who has done this type of training present at events and at club nights, or just someone who has been nominated? So what's the process, I guess, if the welfare officer can't be present at those sessions? No,
I mean, it's a bit like my position as safeguarding manager. There's no chance I can be in every club or at every event. So as long as the welfare officer, let's deal with that now. The welfare officer in the clubs is a point of contact. That person is my eyes and ears in the club, because clearly I can't be in every club. And what that person basically we need them to do is, if there are any issues within the club, that they are a reporting mechanism. Welfare officers are not expected to manage any cases. But what I would like is, if there is something, if something occurs, that they can get the information and pass it straight on to me. I mean, my phone is available, and I'll give you, there is a safeguarding number, but my mobile phone number is also available to everyone, and that I will respond to 7 days a week. So the welfare officer is my eyes and ears, but I'm not expecting any welfare officers to actually manage any cases. And yes, of course, they can't be at every club night, they cannot be at every event, but it's really helpful to have a point of contact that then knows how to contact the welfare officer if there's a problem. So hopefully that helps.
Sorry to interrupt. I had a question. My name is Hitesh. I'm from Highfield Table Tennis Club.
Yeah.
So we have entered quite a number of young children in the local league, and some of the games obviously will be away, some will be home. So when we go home games, it's not a problem because we have quite a few of us at the venue. Now, when it's an away game, for example, you might have 3 children playing in the night, but I was just wondering, in terms of the safeguarding, some of our volunteers cannot be there, or none of us can be there with them. So in that case, could we sort of appoint one of the parents to look after the children at the time? Absolutely.
When my kids all played table tennis, and when my daughter was playing, who we've had a few years now, but as the mother, I used to take her team to the league games. I mean, because of my role, I did have a DBS check, and I was obviously trained. And so I used to transport the 3 of them to the matches and bring them home again. So yes, parents, utilize your parents. As long as you've got parental consent from all of the parents. So if you've got, say, 3 young people playing, and one of the parents is doing the transporting, that the other 2 parents have given their consent. And you can do that on I would suggest you do that on an annual basis. Try and incorporate something alongside your membership form, just for simplicity.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So it's just obviously the parents will probably not have a DBS check, or they have not attended a child protection course. But so I was just wondering whether that would be okay to do, but your
Yeah,
guidance would be valuable.
it's-
Yes, thank you.
it's actually better if you can do a rotation.
Yes.
In terms of that, because I mean, in my case, I was happy to do it, but it is quite a thing to ask one parent to do all the transportation for the whole season. So to have a rotation is fine. And it also means then it doesn't meet the lower threshold to have a DBS check. If you have one parent who is doing all the transporting, then they would meet the lower level of threshold for having to have a DBS check. So that should be done. You can do it through, well, you would need to do it through our system. And then I would just suggest, as I now do to everybody, that as soon as they get their certificate, they upload it onto the DBS update service. So then they don't need to do it again unless there are any changes on it.
Thank you.
Okay?
That's useful. Yes, thank you.
Any other questions on that first bit? Right, let's put up the, oh my goodness. Can you all read that writing?
No.
Or do we all need?
Just about.
Not really.
Not really.
Can you make it any bigger, Claire?
Judy, you're testing my technical knowledge here.
Oh, sorry.
I might be
Okay,
able to if I exit the presentation. Hang on a second. Hang on a mo.
If not, I can talk us through it.
Is that better?
Better for me. How about everybody else?
Yeah, actually, that's better.
That's okay, that.
Okay.
Yeah, a bit better.
Right. So if I take you through it, as I say, this is still a draft, and I'm hoping I've thought of everything, but I'm sure people, if I've forgotten anything. So what I've tried to do here is to put together a checklist so that club officers, club committees can go through it and know what they need to have in place in terms of the club, league, or organisation in terms of safeguarding. So the first question is, does your club have a safeguarding policy? Which every club should have. Now, when it comes to these policies, we are not expecting you to write all of them. We've done that for you. So if you visit the safeguarding page at Table Tennis England, you can either download the policies we've got there and put them onto your website, or you can put a link from your website to the relevant policy on our website. If you are going to do that, you need to put a statement on your website just to say that you take your safeguarding responsibilities as a club extremely seriously, and I'll try and put some words together for clubs to use, and that your club and your club committee have agreed to abide by the Table Tennis England's safeguarding policy and guidelines. And that way it covers you, and if anybody is looking at your website, they will understand that. So the basic first thing you must have as a club is a safeguarding policy.
Sorry to interrupt that. So
Yeah.
the safeguard, we can just straight away create a link to Table Tennis England policy without having to change the logos or anything like that to the club logo.
I'd prefer it if you didn't. All of our policies are initially written by me, but they're then double checked through our case management group, through the Child Protection in Sport unit, and through our solicitors. So we know that what we've got there is the right wording. So we've done all of that for you. So
Yeah, so we don't need to put our logos or anything on our policies.
No,
We can just
no.
report straight to. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, we're trying to make it easy, you see.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next, the most important thing is, does your club have a welfare officer? And I've already touched on their role is really important. On our website is a role description. The welfare officer should be a member of the committee. Safeguarding should be a standard item on all committee meetings. You may not have anything to report, but it should always be there. And the role description on our website tells you very clearly what the role of the welfare officer includes, but it really is more a reporting mechanism. So the next thing you need to know is, what do you do in the event of either you seeing something happening or a child comes to one of you and reveals that they are being abused. So there needs to be some advice and guidance that your club members and yourselves know what to do in the event of a child being in danger. Clearly, if they're in immediate risk of harm, please dial 999. Don't try and get me on the phone if they're in immediate danger of harm. But if they're not, then it's a question of listening, recording, and then reporting it as soon as possible. And the other crucial thing to remember is never promise not to pass on information you've been given. You can't do that, because if you have a child or an adult at risk, you have to report it. The next thing is where to and how. So all of this information is on our website. We have a flow chart. So all you would need to do is to click onto that, to put the link in there so that people know. In terms of the flow chart, it might be worthwhile even downloading that and putting it on your own website, which should be simple enough to do because it's a PDF document. So you should be able to put it and upload it onto your own website. It's a basic flow chart that tells you what to do. The other thing you need to have is, and the flow chart will do this for you, a clear reporting process so that everybody knows what's going to happen and what's being reported to whom. That flow chart will give you that. Now, the next thing is you need to have, because thankfully the majority of things that I deal with are actually not child abuse or safeguarding. What they actually are is poor practice or disciplinary. So your club should have a complaints policy and procedure. If you haven't got one, and now I'm going to put Claire on the spot. Between us, Claire and I can provide you with a template that you can use, which will be sort of very much on the lines of what we do at Table Tennis England. But you should have that in place. And linked to that should be an appeals process. If you're not sure, please talk to me. I will happily guide you through that. And you need to have somewhere to record all your concerns and complaints that isn't shared with too many people. That needs to be something that's kept very confidential. Crucially, do children, young people, do adults who may be at risk know what to do or who to talk to if they have a concern? So your welfare officer's name and contact details should be available to all club members. And does your club have a code of conduct? Because that makes managing poor practice and managing complaints and any minor disciplinary issues so much easier. If you don't have a code of conduct, you're almost sunk before you've started. And again, use our one, use the Table Tennis England one. We've put it all into one document, so it's really simple and easy to see. And going back to what we were saying a bit earlier, does your club have clear guidelines on transporting children? So have that available. I would like to think that parents would ask that. Majority of parents don't. They just assume that their children are safe when they're with you. They really shouldn't do, but you should have that available. We do have guidelines on our website that have been written for transporting children around. Again, you can use that document. Now, do all of your club coaches hold a current coach license with Table Tennis England? This is absolutely crucial now. I am not sure if you're all aware, but in June, the law changed. At the end of June, something that I've been campaigning for, I've been employed by Table Tennis England for 24 years. I've been the only safeguarding manager Table Tennis England has ever had, right from the year 2000 when they were first thought of. And the one thing we've been campaigning for is for coaches in law to be treated exactly the same as teachers. Because a coach is in a position of power over young people. Their role is a position of trust. It's a really vital role. And they should be treated exactly the same as teachers. Finally, after 15 years of campaigning from all the sports, from the Child Protection in Sport Unit, the NSPCC, in June this year, the bill went through Parliament, was approved and signed off. And as of then, all coaches are now in law considered on the same status as teachers. So it is now illegal in law for a coach to have a relationship with anyone between the ages of 16 and 18 for whom they are responsible. That's really, really important, and it just puts another layer of protection for our young people. Right. The next thing, of course, is does everyone who's involved with the club or has a role to play in the club have access to the training they need to do so that they're comfortable and confident to carry out their role? At Table Tennis England, we try to provide access to or deliver training as far as we can. As I say, this new e-learning course, which will be going online hopefully in the next 2 or 3 months, will be a massive step forward for us. And just to put it on people's radar, I will be doing some webinars in the new year for welfare officers or people who are interested in becoming welfare officers. And I will be joined on those webinars by Paul Stewart, who is going to deliver them with me. And he's obviously, what he has been through is horrendous, but he's now a massive champion for safeguarding, and he's a fantastic guy. He's my hero. And so you will see very shortly on our website a podcast that he and I recorded a couple of weeks ago. And as I say, he will be joining me as a double act in the new year, and we'll be delivering webinars and some training for welfare officers. And again, do all the members who work on a regular basis and meet the threshold for DBS checks, have they got a DBS check? Now, what we have got on our website is our DBS fact sheet, which gives you all the information you need about how to get a DBS check, who needs one, what it costs, everything you need to know about a DBS check. And I do review it regularly to make sure that any new questions that might have cropped up are answered on there. It's there to make it easier for you. And I do promise you, I can't tell you how many calls a week I get about DBS checks, even after how many years since they were introduced? 18 years now. So we try to put as much information on there as we possibly can so that you can access it when you need it. And it is all up to date, I promise you that. I also get a lot of phone calls from people who say, I've read your fact sheet. Is it right I have to do this? Well, yes, if the fact sheet says it is, then yes, you do. So we don't publish lies on the fact sheet. It is there to help you. So all of our stuff on there is there to help you. And what you need to do is make sure that your members are aware. You're doing all this work to make your club a safe place for your young people. Make sure your members know that. So make sure that they've got access to your website. Make sure that contact details for key people like the welfare officer, your coaches, are available. And, you know, when you get new members, particularly those with children, you know, make sure you're giving them that information. What I'm going to start working on next is a parents checklist, because it just frightens me how many parents just use our table tennis clubs as a babysitting service. You know, you wouldn't treat your car or your home like that. You wouldn't just leave your car with a complete stranger and say, there you go, you want to use it, off you go. So why would you do it with your most precious person, your child? And so many parents don't ask the questions that they should do. And of course, that then becomes another barrier that stops people that we don't want within our sport accessing our sport. So I'm going to be working on a parents checklist, which I hope will be ready by the end of the year. But preempt them, make sure that information is there in your welcome pack, on your website, that all that information is there available for them. And make sure they know where to find it.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt again. Just wanted to ask a question about the parents. Some parents themselves are like good table tennis players as well, but they are not officially coach or anything. But then they approach us to say, I want to help with the coaching. And obviously, I don't know how they stand in terms of the DBS checks, and so they might be doing occasionally, not necessarily every time, but every time they come with the child, it might be once a month or twice a month. They want to try. They want to say, "I want to try to help with the coaching." I didn't know what's the guidelines for them to have DBS checks and maybe safeguarding.
Yeah, you're going into a really grey area here, but they shouldn't be coaching because they're not qualified coaches. So there's a difference between, they can be a practice partner and they're brilliant in that respect, because you know, we all know how the kids, as they get better and better, they need to be able to have the practice partners who can put the ball where the coach needs the ball to be put so that they can practice their shots. So they can come and do that. What they shouldn't be doing is coaching, and they shouldn't be classed as a coach, but they can be classed as a feeder, a practice partner. Now, if they are doing this every single week, they should never, never, never be alone with a child. Excuse me. And they should never be having responsibility for the children. Now, I accept that there are times when coaches are unwell and maybe someone has to step up for a session. That's fine on a one-off occasion, but if it's happening on a regular basis, then they would need to be DBS checked.
Thank you. That's useful.
Sorry?
Thank you. That's useful. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. And again, it's all about, just for information, the lower threshold for regulated activity, which requires you to have a DBS check, is if you're performing and taking responsibility, i.e. perhaps you're a junior organizer, maybe it's a junior practice night at the club and a couple of parents just sit in, take the money, enter the register, and that's it. But nevertheless, they're taking responsibility for the young people. If they're doing that more than once a week or 3 times a month, then they should go through a DBS process. That's the lower threshold. And we do in fact have a role for junior organisers. And again, I would say everyone who's undergoing a DBS check, when you get your certificate, upload it onto the DBS update service.
Having said that, just a quick question, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
So if they're doing it with their own child, for instance, so they are coaching their own child more than once a week, does that still apply?
No, not if it's their own child. That's absolutely fine. But if they're working with other children or coaching other children, and actually, to be fair, your coach might have something to say about that, because you know, the parent may not be teaching or coaching the child in the way that your coach wants them to. So that may be a conversation the coach may want to have with the parent. I mean, I'm no coach, but when my daughter was on the circuit, we couldn't always afford to have a coach travel with us. So I used to sit at the end of the table and, coach her. I have to say my coaching ability is pretty negligible, the same as my playing ability. But I could say things to her like, have you thought about serving backhand occasionally? And things like that. Most of the time it was pretty, but yeah, I think it's for the coaches to work with the parents. But if you've got a practice night and a parent wants to come along with their child and practice with them and give them a few tips, then if it's their child, then that's absolutely fine.
Fantastic. Thank you for that.
I think we can stop sharing now, Claire, because we've come to the end of that, and then that means I can see people, and hopefully if there's any questions. Or is it just
Judy, it's Tom.
all into silence?
Judy, it's Tom.
Tom. Oh, hi, Tom.
Hi. I know this webinar is about clubs. But it's vitally important that leagues have similar policies and procedures, and they push out these procedures to the clubs.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.